Hi, my name is Claire Flannagan, and I'm a student in the Department of Biomedical Engineering at UW-Madison. And I've been asked to speak a little bit about peer mentoring in the BME design curriculum. And I think this topic is especially pertinent in the world that we're moving into because more than ever, we're fully realizing how there's a need to collaborate in a workplace environment. And so if we can learn these skills in a comfortable context, like hopefully our design courses are, then we'll better be able to use these skills in a workplace down the line. So today, I'd like to talk about a few topics. The first is about project selection, which I'll briefly discuss because it actually pertains to all levels, from first years to upperclassmen. And then I'll talk a little bit about starting your project off right based on both the standpoint of a mentor and of a mentee. And regardless of where you are in your undergraduate career, it's helpful to take a step back right now and to think about your role and the roles of your teammates. And by being aware of the roles of your teammates, you can adapt your interactions and communication to bring out the best in everybody as you work together. So also, as students, we're in a constant process of learning from each other and about teaching each other. So as we learn what our individual duties are, we'll be better able to shape our individual growth and also to transform our project. So let's start from the beginning. The first step is to choose a project, and that's natural, but I'd like to make the point that it should be a deliberate choice. If you choose a project based on your interests, the rest will naturally fall into place. So I'll explain that a little bit further. First, if you have initial enthusiasm, that creates a precedent for subsequent involvement. And by being involved, that naturally lends itself toward contribution. And so by being able to contribute, even if your skill set is rather small, you'll be able to feel a sense of completion and relationship with the project and also with the rest of your teammates. By contrast, if you choose a project based on a friend's interest, that sort of diminishes your ability to find a niche within your project. So now I'll move on into, with your project in hand, it becomes important to know how to relate to your team members so that both the team morale is high and your productivity is high. Both of those are equally important. So in any given project, there may be one or more members that have more background experience, so it's important that everybody in this role is confident in their ability to mentor. So what is mentoring? In a word, it is the ability to give structure and definition and direction to a project without confining opportunities. So as a mentor, it's important to be able to foster innovation in your fellow teammates and to eliminate the need and the tendency for them to focus on logistics and understanding the natural progression of the design process. So I thought that I'd talk a little bit about the logistics and then about the personal things that you can do to help create this team bond. From a logistics standpoint, there are a whole lot of things that you can reach out with to better instruct your team members and get them involved. And first of all, this website with all of the videos and tools on it is a great place to start, as is the BME design page. And also there are a lot of websites and search engines online, whether it is BME Source or Google Scholar, things as simple as that, or product web pages like Sigma Aldrich or McMaster, which have been very helpful in every semester I've worked. And also regulatory agencies like the FDA or even the US Patent Office are great places to find the necessary resources. And it also might be a great idea to develop a list of campus references, and your new teammates might be actually invaluable in adding to this list then you can use throughout the semester. And then, to answer any questions about the course curriculum, it's important to designate and define what the deliverables are throughout the semester, and even more importantly, it's it's essential to actually explain what that might entail. So that includes everything from the length of this deliverable, the amount of preparation that you typically require, the attire that's expected if it's a presentation, and also even the individual work that's required versus the group work that you may utilize to develop this finished product. And another good idea might be, this seems really simple, to define what a functional prototype actually is. If you're not on the same page with that, that might lead to misjudgment in what is required and in the time frame that is required to complete your project. And also, it would be important to discuss the function of the weekly advisor meeting. That's something that's good to do with your peers, obviously, because you are the only resources that you have to appropriately define what is expected of your team and of your individuals at any given meeting. And one other thing that you can do to give further assistance is to share your design notebook from previous semesters. Obviously, it's the most important tool to share the chart of your progress and the path of your ideas. And so this can help jumpstart your teammates into the right sort of progression, and they can obviously deviate from that as well, but it's a good place to start. And another resource is to develop an online repository for information. We do have each team's individual design webpage, but that's publicly accessible. So you can also use tools like My Webspace or Google Docs to house these mid-semester presentations or research that you find online, and that will hopefully open up communication and also allow team members to share their progress regularly and along the way. So these are all logistical and practical things that you can do, but it's just as important to foster a good personal relationship with your teammates. So the most important thing to do, and that almost goes without saying, is to be the best person you can be. And this means living with integrity and ethical responsibility. And so along with that, I think that you'll also be more likely to be others-centered. And one way that you can ensure this is to work one-on-one with your teammates. And that will hopefully give them a sense of confidence as they embark on these new tasks, but it'll also allow you to more appropriately gauge their skill level and their learning style so that you can continue to work with them in the most appropriate way possible. And another thing is that in everything that you do, you want everybody on the team to have a sense of ownership of their contribution. So this includes small little compliments and also good directives of what they can do next and how they've actually contributed in light of the whole. And then another way to build their involvement is to ask specific questions. Some things seem innate with us as we've gone through each semester, but for new students, they might not be familiar with the deeper meaning of your questions. And then along with that, it's important to give them enough transition time so that they can process all the information and then respond and then ask any follow-up questions if necessary. And then finally, sometimes a social gathering is a good way to break the ice and outside of the work environment. So I'm guessing a lot of you have already put many of these things into practice, but it still serves as a good reminder as you embark on a new project. So with that said, what can you do if you're in the mentee seat? Well, the first thing is that you can mention any of the things that I've just described if they're not present in your team at this moment, and if you feel like they might be beneficial things to add. But the most important thing is that you should maintain a sense of enthusiasm that you hopefully had from the onset of choosing your project. But the other thing that is so important is to ask questions. And that may be something as simple as you not understanding a problem, so just ask. It might also be if you've thought of, okay, this is editing. So If you don't understand a part of the project, just ask. And if you've thought of something new, but you don't know how to carry out the details of the project, you can ask about that as well. And even if you'd just like some better feedback on how you're performing, in light of what your teammates think, it's perfectly fine to ask about that, because that's a natural step in personal growth and toward appropriate contributions on a team. And also, if you don't have any specific questions, but you feel like you need to know more, there are tons of resources online and around campus that you can reach out for, whether it's your advisor or online websites, or even your peers and new students in the department. There's lots of ways to build on your existing knowledge. And I remember that when I was a new student, there were so many times where I felt like I didn't have the appropriate coursework to tackle a problem. But it's incredible how far you can get with the spirit of curiosity and problem solving, because a lot of design projects don't always rely on the skill set as much as it does on your ability to problem solve. So it's great that you can consider yourself competent even if you're not confident in your abilities. So finally, remember that it's likely that your mentor will need your opinion as the semester goes on, and this is a perfect opportunity for you to exercise your new sense of leadership and your autonomy as you learn more about the design process. And even if you're just confirming their opinion, that's invaluable for the progression of the design and for the advancement of the project and new ideas. So to conclude, design is a dynamic process, and we're always both learning from and teaching each other. And at any given time, we can be both students and teachers. So it's important to have a feel for both sides of this, whether mentor or mentee, and to appropriately use our roles to befit the team context. And I think that about wraps things up. I hope that this video will help you to use the most important resources that you have, being yourself. So good luck with your projects, and good luck working together.